Age of Imprisonment canonical story. In other words, one that will probably become part of the official Zelda timeline.
An official press release from Nintendo saying that this is a canonical tale featuring Princess Zelda, Rauru, and other familiar characters. To me, it feels that they don't need to do any time travel shenanigans and alter the story much at all.
The only thing I think, if they were to change it and pull the rug, let's just say, would be bringing Link into the final battle and having a decisive victory there and then. And that way you add Link as a playable character.
It is interesting that this will now be 2 back-to-back Zelda titles without Link, promoting Zelda to the role of the chief protagonist. I really hope they don't do any time travel shenanigans and pull Link from the future, because it kind of devalues the whole point in the Imprisoning War, which is, setting up Link's final act in Tears of the Kingdom. I've seen some speculation on the internet that this could involve some way the Ancient Hero, which obviously we saw as the reward for all shrines in Tears of the Kingdom. You get the Ancient Hero's aspect, which is some sort of Zonai thing that then envelops Link with the aura of an ancient hero who wears Zonai clothes, but he doesn't really seem to be a Hylian or a Zonai. He's something very strange. Although it doesn't quite work with the timeline, because we're told by Impa that this ancient hero is the very same ancient hero who fought alongside the Sheikah 10,000 years before Breath of the Wild, which, while a very long time in the past, is, a drop in the ocean compared to just how far back in the past Rauru's Hyrule seems to be.
In the case of Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild, it diverges very heavily away from the canon that was recently updated with Echoes of Wisdom. No matter what we end up with here, I have a feeling that this is going to be more of an introduction to a new Hyrule in a sense, and the first palace or first Hyrule Castle in this sense, and also the operations that were done and conducted by the Zonai. Thanks to Masterworks, Tears of the Kingdom, we know that the Zonai were active in the depths for a long time before even the events of Age of Imprisonment. So it will be interesting to see how the depths are at the end of the Zonai age, because that's what I call it. It's the last 2 individuals that are still alive on the surface.
To be fair, that's one of the things I'm most excited about with this game, is just seeing Rauru's Hyrule outside of these tiny little snippets that we got in Tears of the Kingdom. And it's one, if you go through Masterworks, you can see how much work went into designing this place.
We're not going to be only exploring one kingdom, we'll be exploring 2, because of the Gerudo Kingdom and the exploration of Ganondorf and his time as king of the Gerudo before becoming the Demon King. You have an amazing potential to create a far more interesting villain of the story than Tears of the Kingdom, where, let's be honest, Ganondorf doesn't do much. Brings the story into motion and then sits away in the depths and waits for you. Apart from that one moment where he holographically shows up and throws Phantom Ganon at you.
Yep, that's about it. And another thing with Tears of the Kingdom's Ganondorf, especially in the Western localization of Tears of the Kingdom, is his motivation is completely absent. I know it's Ganondorf who's a little bit like Bowser in that he's just evil for evil's sake, but there is more depth to him in most of his appearances, and Tears of the Kingdom is no different, but it's something that we didn't get outside of Japan. The Japanese version delves much more into why he does what he does and why he hates Rauru and the order that his Kingdom of Hyrule has established on this land. And it's to do with the chaos that came before. Ganondorf loved the idea that the world was in turmoil and strength was the most important thing. Only the strong could prosper. And Rauru's order brings peace and allows weakness, as Ganondorf sees it, to prosper, which is something that we didn't get at all in the localizations. And you're right, it'll be so interesting to see Ganondorf as a character and perhaps his motivations explored in this game, as well as his role as the king of the Gerudo, which again we only saw glimpses of when he's attacking the Great Plateau with Molduga, and when he's kneeling in the throne room. We see him flanked with a group of quite sinister looking Gerudo warriors, and to be fair, really interesting the front two Gerudo, there's one on his right-hand side, one on his left-hand side, they're Kotake and Koume. One wears blue, one wears red. They both have sashes on their shoulders with Hylian text that translates to Kotake Koume, which is fantastic. It means Twin Rover, which could mean that in Age of Imprisonment we'll see the twin Gerudo witches perhaps as bosses or something like that. I'm really, really interested to see that.
Could be more of a proper war, because of course at the end of it all, we know that Ganondorf will betray his own tribe, as is also pointed out in that memory when Rauru points the sages. They're saying that the last Gerudo point of resistance has fallen. And we see also the Gerudo sage being deeply concerned as a result. I hope we can see some of that turmoil within the Gerudo tribe as well, and like the turning point. When does that Gerudo sage come over to the side of Rauru and abandons Ganondorf? Because obviously it's more like Ganondorf betrays his own tribe by taking the side of the demons and the demon tribe.
His relationship with the Gerudo has always been really interesting to me, especially in the Wind Waker, where he has this whole monologue about how the trials and tribulations that his people went through was one of his reasons for doing what he did. But there's a kind of a hypocrisy to what he says, because he sees his people more as a means to an end. Like Ganondorf saying all these things about how he coveted the winds that blew on Hyrule because they didn't bring death like the ones that blew on the Gerudo Desert. But you don't see any Gerudo in the Wind Waker. He doesn't seem to have any love for his people. It's always an army of demons and goblins and things like that. And the same seems to be true in Tears of the Kingdom, where he has Gerudo following him, but then as soon as he's the Demon King, it's just, monsters. He doesn't actually love his people on a level that, we'd understand loving your own people. He sees them just as a means to get more power for himself, and like I said, reset the world to this old world order of chaos and power. So I'm really interested to see that. But yeah, the Sky Islands too are something that perhaps we'll see here. It's something that was weirdly absent from all of Tears of the Kingdom's memories. We didn't see any Sky Islands, even though we know that there were Sky Islands back in the time of Rauru's Hyrule. And it kind of links with another thing that I'm really interested to see how they do here, is that we know the Great Sky Island, so Tears of the Kingdom's tutorial area, was on the surface during this time, because obviously the Zonai Temple of Time, which is on the Great Sky Island, was on the Great Plateau during this era.
The more we bring up here, we realize that this game has far bigger potential than Age of Calamity, because we kind of knew that Hyrule already. It was nice to see it 100 years prior, but this is a Hyrule that we absolutely don't know, and where we barely saw any scenes outside of what was the Great Plateau. Let's face it, it's mostly cutscenes in and around the area. There's one cutscene, when they're drinking tea, that is slightly away from the Great Plateau, but other than that, most of the other cutscenes just happen on the ground, whether in the depths or just in the cave systems of Hyrule. I do hope to see the sages unmasked at some point. I want to see the faces. I want names.
Yes.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that it needs to answer, because one problem that this game is going to have is there's a very small roster, right, of characters that... So we know, obviously, there's Rauru, Minoru, Zelda, and the four sages. Outside of that, I'm kind of struggling to think of heroes who could fill out this roster.
I think the game benefits a lot from there being one main villain, and no trickery or secondary villains. It's Ganondorf, plain and simple. He will be scheming from the start, and seeing this whole story from his perspective, it's actually going to be fascinating. It will be interesting to see how his kingdom worked, and how he was as a ruler to his own people. Because, truth to be told, we haven't seen that in any kind of Zelda medium.
He's always kind of either already past that point that he's kind of, got rid of the Gerudo because he's ascended to some sort of pseudo-godhood, or he's just on the cusp of doing that. We've never actually seen him kind of in the early stages being the king of the Gerudo, which would be awesome to see that explored here. At least from the little snippets we got in the reveal trailer, it does kind of seem that they're trying to fill in the gaps between the memories here. We see the meet cutscene where Zelda first arrives in the ancient past and meets, and then it seems that the gameplay will kind of immediately flow on from that, which is awesome. Like, if that's the case, that we'll perhaps see Age of Imprisonment versions of Tears of the Kingdom's cutscenes, perhaps, that then just flow into gameplay before and after. That'd be such a great way to tie it into the little bits we saw in Tears of the Kingdom, and make this kind of feel like a complete narrative.
Isn't that exactly what we wanted from Tears of the Kingdom in the first place? Cutscenes either leading from gameplay sections or into gameplay sections. Because that's how you create immersion. Always a big thank you for taking your time, for joining me. Ed, where can we find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel, Zeltik, where it's just everything Zelda. If you like Zelda, you'll probably enjoy my videos. Thank you so much for having me.
It's always a great pleasure to have you. Not miss anything, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to both of our channels, press the notification bell, and to all patreon.com/CommonRun patrons, in particular Raw Producer, JZ Funk, and Heroes, Cheryl, Garrett Hoy, Holly Wolf, and Kintar. You all rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.